Hey everyone! So, I chose to research narcissistic personality disorder because understanding how narcissists think and act has always interested me. So a personality disorder, as you guys know, is a type of mental disorder where basically you have this rigid and unhealthy pattern of thinking, functioning, and or behaving. Someone with a personality disorder has lots of trouble relating to situations and even other people, and this causes significant problems and limitations in people's lives when it comes to relationships, social activities, work, and even school. In a lot of cases, people don't even realize that they have a personality disorder because the way that they're thinking and acting on a regular basis is just completely natural for them. So this might even cause them to blame others for the challenges that they face. So narcissistic personality disorder, which is one of many, is a mental condition where people have ultimately this deeply inflated sense of their own importance. There is this deep need for excessive attention and praise for even the littlest of accomplishments, and there's especially a major lack of empathy for others. But interestingly enough, behind the excessive confidence, which many people don't know actually, is this extremely fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to pretty much any little bit of criticism. So like I mentioned before, there are many characteristics of NPD, but here are the diagnosis criteria according to DSM-5. So there's a grandiose sense of self-importance, a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, a belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other people, other special people or high status people or institutions, a need for excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitative behavior, which essentially is a lack of empathy, envy of others or a belief that others are envious of him or her, and finally, a demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors and attitudes. So it's not completely known what causes this disorder exactly, but as with personality development and other mental health disorders, the cause of narcissistic personality disorder is very complex. Although the cause is not known, some researchers think that parenting styles that are on the extreme spectrum of overprotective or extremely neglectful do in fact have an impact on children. And children's development of this personality disorder later in life. Genetics and neurobiology also play a role in the development of this disorder, but aside from genetics, which is minimal inheritance, researchers have identified a clear relationship between impulsive aggression and the serotonergic system, which is basically a very complex neurochemical system in the brain. And this correlation suggests that there are biological relations for the symptom of impulsive aggression that is a characteristic of NPD or can be associated with NPD. Brain scans of those who suffer from NPD have also actually shown reductions in the volume of certain brain regions associated with the regulation of emotions. So that turns into a physical, biological, in your brain kind of effect of narcissistic personality disorder. So taking a step back, a human's recognition that our place in the world can be viewed from perspectives is a unique and extremely unique feature of our cognition in general. So jumping back in, for those with narcissistic personality disorder, people feel unrealistically entitled to praise and almost feel like other people should be worshiping them and bowing down at their feet, even if they haven't done anything significant enough where people are just kind of why why would we praise you for if you haven't done anything, in a sense. So narcissists surprisingly can feel love, but just can't sustain it because they're so overly obsessed with themselves, and any relationship they have ultimately turns into this competition that they make up in their head. They just have to be better. They have to be more special. They have to be this much more than another person. And ultimately, that's I would assume that would break lots of relationships. And that's with a significant other, that's with siblings, family, friends, regardless. So people with NPD also see themselves as larger than life, obviously, and assume that other people are jealous of them. So that goes back to the envy in the DSM-5 characteristic, where they just think that everyone wants to be them, everyone's jealous of them. And with that comes one of the next characteristics is that they're just general lack of care for others, their lack of empathy for other people. So a pretty much given behavior that a narcissist takes part in is thinking nothing of taking advantage of others to meet their own goals. So this is kind of just like a long way of saying selfish, but it's more than that. It's taking advantage of people close to them, people that they should be caring about, people that they should have cared about since they were little almost, and just not really thinking anything of taking advantage of them for their own personal goals, their own what people would consider unattainable goals, but what they think in their head is realistic. Other behaviors someone with NPD often shows is reacting violently or becoming extremely offended when someone criticizes them. So this goes back to the hypersensitivity of like they are extremely sensitive to any little bit of criticism. Acting aggressively because they often can't control lots of frustration. So people with NPD have shown tendencies to have lower frustration tolerance. So this goes with the criticism. If they feel that they're being criticized, being attacked, they will act very aggressively to anybody who's kind of trying, in their mind, bring their ego down. Hurting others to feel better about themselves. So that kind of goes with just like putting people down and being like a bully just to be that much better than other people. And even lying or exaggerating just excessively about certain things to convince others, and basically to even just convince themselves, to build themselves up that they're just like this amazing person. So society has a pretty limited impact on those with NPD, because you would think that like maybe influence and wanting to be better than everybody else could be like a cultural or like a societal impact, but NPD is so much more than that, because they can act and like have this huge ego, but it's more just in their heads than anything else. Like it can be influenced from outside factors, but it's just more like it's such a personal, like basically they're like almost in competition with themselves to just be better and higher and like this much more. So society does have a pretty limited impact, but it has been found on certain studies that only childs are more susceptible to developing it, because as you can probably assume, they grew up as being the most important thing to their parents. They become like the center of attention in their family life. On a bigger scale, narcissism is increasing in modern Western societies and has even been referred to as a narcissism epidemic, which is kind of crazy considering everything going on right now. It has been shown that it is more common for people with NPD to have higher socioeconomic status than average, and they are more from urban areas than rural. And lastly, but the most generic in my opinion, is that people with NPD have this like obligation that they have to impress others and themselves to invoke envy. So just going back yet again to the DSM-5 criteria, to symptoms of having NPD, it's just like invoking, like they just want people to be jealous of them. They believe people are jealous of them. They just like, that's how in over their heads they are. So treatment for narcissistic personality disorder is a talk therapy, or also known as psychotherapy. Medications can possibly be prescribed for treatment if someone has other mental health conditions or the comorbidity, in a sense, that accompany NPD. So psychotherapy helps with many things, including helping people with NPD relate better with others so their relationships are more intimate and enjoyable. Understanding the causes of their emotions and what drives them to be so competitive and to distrust others. Accepting and maintaining real personal relationships and collaboration with others. And by others, this means coworkers, this means classmates, teammates, teachers, coaches, parents. I mean, anybody that they come into contact with, essentially. Recognizing and accepting their actual potential so that they can tolerate any little bit of criticism or failures, if any. Increasing their ability to understand and regulate their feelings. And finally, releasing their desire for just these unattainable and unrealistic goals by accepting what's realistic and ideal. Therapy can be short-term to help manage these narcissistic traits, but it's so if it's not short term, it's more just to provide like an ongoing basis to help people with NPD achieve and maintain their realistic goals that they've set for themselves. Sometimes including family members can be helpful, depending on, the patient and their preference. So just kind of like a bonus slide that I added in just because I thought it was interesting, and we did it on the psychoactive drug project, was the risk factors and complications, but instead of a drug, as a personality disorder. Risk factors, so narcissistic personality affects more males than females, and it often begins in the teen years or early adulthood. Keep in mind, though, that some children may show traits of narcissism, but this could just simply be typical of their age, and it doesn't mean they'll actually go on to develop narcissistic personality disorder. Following this is some complications or the comorbidity, mental illnesses, or conditions that may accompany it, including depression, anxiety, and all the everything that goes with those two, and then just health problems in general. And this can even lead to abusing drugs or alcohol. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone. It was really fun actually to research narcissistic personality disorder, and I really enjoyed sharing what I found because I just thought it was really interesting. Stay safe, everyone, and I hope to see some of you guys soon.